Well, hey, namaste, everyone. What if I told you that the moment of balance was before us? What if I mentioned to you that the unified field is here, that 2025 has begun, and that everything is coming into harmony? Well, for the next 2 weeks on Expanding Consciousness, we're going to dive into that and far beyond, because this is a great moment. It is a moment of unified presence. It is the moment of the expansion of consciousness itself. Welcome to Expanding Consciousness. I am Master Lady Kira Ra, and whether this is your first time or your 1000th time joining me, I am, as you are, so grateful to be here in this moment. And today I'm really happy, really grateful. I'm going to sink back into my chair because today, coming to you from the beautiful La Sala here at Tosa Blue Mountain Sanctuary in Ecuador, I am honored to be with Adama, who is not just a guest here, he is family here, he is an extraordinary being with incredible history. And one of the things that is so evident at this moment, especially as we're moving into 2025, is that in this library, in this encyclopedia, as I have been called to do through this Expanding Consciousness moment, we are here right now to put into this library, to put into this field of potentiality, whenever you may connect with this, a stream and a field of conscious connection that you are ready to receive. So today is about trust, flow, and receiving. Can you feel that? Trust, flow, and receiving. I know I can feel that quite a bit, and I'm really excited to start in this new year of 2025 by inviting Adama here. And Adama, I just want to say thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's just such an honor to be here with you.
Thank you. It is. It's a gift for me as well. And you know, the one thing I know is that I don't do justice to this man in trying to do anything as far as a introduction. So would you be so kind as to help everybody understand just a little bit of who you are?
I will give you a brief introduction into who I am.
And I will drink coffee.
Well, I was born in East Kentucky in a little coal mining town with about 500 people. And my grandfather was a coal miner. My father was a diesel mechanic. My mother was a assistant Head Start teacher and grocery clerk. And my mother pretty much raised me by herself with my grandmother and grandfather. My father was sort of in the picture, but you know, he was. I would say he was a benevolent masculine for the most part. He was a good man, but you know, he was on his fourth wife, and he had a lot of stuff he was working through, and I only saw him occasionally. But he was a good man, and my grandfather, he was a good man. And, you know, they really modeled a gentle masculinity that was still very strong, and so I'm really grateful for that. But you know, I was the first in my family to go to college, and ended up going to college and majoring in philosophy and international affairs, and then I went to law school because I decided, well, I'll tell you, I told my mother, I was like, Mom, I'm thinking about getting a PhD in philosophy and being a philosopher. And giving this beautiful, grounded country wisdom of a mother, she said, you know, what the hell are you going to do with that?
Right? Sound familiar?
And so that was her loving way of saying, you might want to look into whether you can make a living with that.
That's always what a mother is thinking, of course.
Yeah.
Of course, right?
And so I ended up deciding to go to law school.
Right on. Good for you.
And part of that was also this inner quandary I had about, do I want to philosophize about the world, or do I want to be an actor on the stage shaping events?
That's a powerful question.
Yeah. And I got really clear that I wanted to be an actor on the stage shaping events and not just in an ivory tower discussing them.
Right.
And so I decided to go to law school, put my head down, went through 3 of the hardest years of my life, and
absolutely,
you know, went ahead and passed the bar. Ended up in 2011, passed the bar, and returned to my hometown in East Kentucky, the last place I wanted to go.
Okay.
I left at 18, trying to get away forever, and then the economy.
How many of you know that story?
Yeah,
right?
I thought I was home free.
Of course.
And then the economy crashed, and I ended up back in East Kentucky, working for a community bank. And just feeling a little down, But I was like, it was one of the only jobs I could get. People who were only getting jobs who had family connections, and I had none. And so I got that job, and I was off to a start for my career, and I was full of ambition, and college had turned me into a militant atheist, right? I grew up a mystic. I grew up knowing that there was connection, that everything was alive, that the trees were alive. I had this inner knowing all my life, and I had this deep love of God all my life, even though I grew up in an evangelical church that often made that hard to see or understand in the way
the mystical aspects of that.
Right.
Yeah.
I had the mystical part, and their dogma really kind of obscured God for me. So,
Got it.
but college turned me into an atheist, especially as a philosophy major, and so I was, I was like, well, apparently there's no point to life except to play the game of money and power and prestige, and so I'm going to just go ahead and go be powerful.
Now, how old were you?
I was, about 25.
Okay. So 25, I'm going to go be powerful, atheist, this is point to life, got it.
23 to 25.
Got it,
Yeah.
okay.
And so I'm going to just be an atheist, I'm going to be powerful. I ended up getting a job working for a former chairman of the Republican National Convention in his bank as an associate general counsel. And then in 2011, 2012, this was during the last solar maximum, the last 11-year cycle. I was just reading a mainstream article on quantum physics that talked about the universe being a great thought rather than a great clock, right? Just this speaking in a language that I found intellectually credible, right? Gave me intellectual permission to say, okay, scientists are saying the universe is a great thought, not a great clock.
Right.
That everything is consciousness and not dead matter. Let me enter into a thought experiment. Let me pretend everything is alive for a moment. And then I literally looked at my secretary who was sitting across from me. And I thought to myself, you too are me. And I believed it. And in the believing it, my heart just flew wide open. I had this huge, massive Kundalini rising experience. Went into this beautiful place of non-duality for a couple of weeks while I was trying to do my job.
How was that?
It was incredibly powerful, profound, ungrounding, and
Can you relate?
beautiful.
Yeah, right.
It was absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
It was a death.
Uh-huh.
Right? It was a death. A part of me, a version of me died.
Yeah.
And the Kundalini rising from this ambition and hunger for power right
You
here.
could feel
this,
that, right?
Yeah, the
Wow,
solar
feel that,
plexus.
yeah.
Oof.
Got it.
Fire in the gut, right?
You know it.
Had fire in the gut. And then with that, it was that faith that everything is one, everything is connected, giving myself that intellectual permission to believe it, and just having faith that is so, just for a moment.
Right.
Right? It's not that you have to do it forever, right?
Right.
I just gave myself permission for a moment to truly believe it and allow myself to enter into that state of consciousness of what it would be like if that were true. And that was enough for me, for my heart to open.
Right.
And the energy to move from this place of competition, of seeking power,
Right.
to a place of love and equanimity. And that place lasted for a couple weeks of me just swimming in bliss, swimming in love. And
So what did that look like for you? What did swimming in bliss, swimming in love look like for you?
it looked like me going to the clerk's office to get some real estate documents, looking in the eyes of a woman standing in line and becoming her.
Got it. Okay.
Right?
So that state of unification, that oneness, that I am as you are
I
moment.
am as you are.
Yeah,
and just
got it.
weeping. Right?
Got it.
Because to that point, I had a lot of judgment around the people around me, because I didn't, it was not the highest level consciousness right on the planet. This is a small southern town in Kentucky. Good people, but they're simple people and country people, and they got a lot of rough edges, right?
Right.
And I always felt very alienated in that environment. And so I really think I had to kind of go back there for my heart to have that heart opening to accept that which I pushed away early on, right? And so it was literally making eye contact with somebody, becoming them, feeling the whole essence of their being, and then weeping. It was walking on the grass and avoiding bugs.
Yeah.
It was not eating or sleeping because you just didn't need it, right? Just
Correct.
too much energy.
Correct.
And so it was this really crazy experience of an altered state of consciousness entering into a new dimension of awareness.
Absolutely.
And that was just the beginning.
So this is about 13 years ago now. So now
Yeah.
we're 13 years down the line.
Yeah.
So give us the fast forward. So how did you wind up here at Tosa Blue Mountain? Because we're coming to hear live from Tosa Blue Mountain, and the reason that we are speaking this evening and that this is a two-part series is because part of the journey is the evolution of the conscious awareness and where we are going collectively. And where we are going is into this beautiful state of a depth of awareness. And so bring me 13 years later.
Yeah.
How did you get into this state of conscious awareness? And let's start there.
Through a lot of death portals.
Okay, so did you all hear that? Through a lot of death portals. And that for me, when I hear through a lot of death portals, the first thing that comes forward when I hear that is that death portals come to us as we evolve, as we expand. Yeah. And so how did your death portal journey begin?
Well, this most recent death portal that brought me here.
Got it,
right?
okay. And how many was that, if you know?
A lot.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
So
some are small, some are big.
And so I think that's really important though to talk about and that's maybe something we want to dive deeper into is to be in that death portal without the fear. You know, it's that, yea, though I walk through the valley of death, I fear no evil because I am as you are, thereby evil does not exist.
Right.
It is that essence of the totality of all that I have ever been. Yeah. And so let's talk about the most recent one.
So the most recent one began at the end of October.
Okay, October 2024.
October 2024. Okay. And, I've been on a journey, after I had my big spiritual awakening, I wanted to run away to the ashram. I wanted to run away to the monastery.
Absolutely.
I wanted to just pray to God and meditate for the rest of my life.
Yep.
And
that bliss state.
I wanted to hang on to the bliss. I wanted
Forever.
to continue to swim in the bliss. And I had lost interest in the physical world and the career I had planned for myself and the life I had planned with my fiance. And so me being in my mid-20s, having lost interest in the life I had built for myself, I either didn't have the courage to just run away or start over, or maybe but I think it was more the case that there was uncooked karma there. Right. So I had this awareness come in.
Right.
But after 2 weeks, the ego came back enough to say, what the hell just happened? Right? So,
the first test. I want to stop there because that's the first test.
Yeah.
It's always going to be the ego coming back. That's in that totality of the five medicines, right? Because that's mental.
Right.
That's that 6 o'clock going, hey, hold on here. I got you. I've had you your whole life, right?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So that came up. Okay.
Yeah.
Keep going.
The personality came back enough for me to question reality.
Got it.
Right. And so then, that new awareness was at the forefront.
Right.
For 2 weeks.
Got it.
And the ego was basically in the background. And then they came back more where the ego started to come into the forefront.
Okay.
And then the awareness, the expanded awareness was in the background, but also around it.
Got it.
So I had all this spaciousness around the ego. And I had all this spaciousness around the personality. I no longer took myself personally.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
That's really powerful.
And I was all of a sudden able to view my personality and my life situation as it was playing out from this greater perspective, which accelerated my ability to learn from my mistakes.
Got it.
Right?
I do.
And so I didn't run away to the ashram. I continued to practice law. Soon after I had that experience, I ended up leaving my position at the bank, going to a law firm in central Kentucky where I practiced law for 10 years and ended up making managing partner of a small firm, all the while knowing that wasn't my path and just like wondering, where's the off-ramp, right?
So I want to be clear. Because I think a lot of people listening are feeling this way.
Yeah.
You're consciously aware. You've had this powerful Kundalini awakening. Yeah. You're there, but yet you're really walking in the world. Yet the whole time you're walking in the world, out here in the side, somewhere around you, there's this constant how do I move? Where's the off ramp?
Right.
Where am I going?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like, how do I integrate this awareness with this
Right.
physical body and this physical reality,
Right.
which is so incongruent,
Right.
right? How do I anchor it? How do I take heaven and make it earth?
There you go.
You know, that was the question for a decade, and one of the first practices I found, and I know that you're also a Kriya Bonin, is Kriya Yoga in the lineage of Paramahansa Yogananda.
Absolutely.
I found Autobiography of a Yogi soon after my awakening.
Oh, we had to talk about that then.
I just wept the whole time.
Okay.
And
Which one did you read? The SRF brown cover?
the SRF first.
Okay.
Now I have the blue book, and it's
You've got to go page by page.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
kid you not, go page
They
by page.
edited.
Because it's the
Yeah.
real thing.
Right.
You see the man,
Right.
not the myth.
Not the Messiah.
Yes. Very enlightening for me.
Yeah, and but that brought me on the path of Kriya Yoga within a few weeks of reading that book, or maybe while I was reading it. I had this powerful dream initiation with Avatar Babaji, where I was in his cave in a dream, and like got Kriya Yoga initiation, and I basically lived the life of a householder yogi for about a decade, right?
Did that for 22 years.
And that was an integrating of that non-dual awareness with ordinary consciousness while being able to maintain worldly responsibility.
Exactly.
Which is important. Right?
It's valuable because it's the role and the reason for being for many.
Yeah.
And it's just as extraordinary and exquisite as other roles.
Yeah, it is. The householder path is a powerful path.
It's extraordinary.
I always said it's easy to remember God alone in a monastery.
Right?
It's hard to remember God all the time in a world that has forgotten.
Exactly. I love that. So beautifully said.
And
so keep going. Babaji has appeared.
Yeah, Babaji appeared. Beautiful dream initiation. I continued my practice of Kriya and studying the perennial wisdom tradition, and really initiating my mind and deepening my self-realization through the practice of Kriya Pranayama. But I hit a point in 2018-19 where I could feel my life squeezing me out. You know, I could feel it was just one thing after another of the universe saying, I'm going to make it harder and harder on you to hang on to this life situation until you choose something else.
So I want to jump in here because I want to make sure everyone really understands what you're saying, because everyone goes through this moment. So the last I jumped in, we were looking at, you're on this pathway, you're interfacing, but there's this, where's my off-ramp? Where's my off-ramp? Where's my off-ramp? The whole while the universe is going, don't worry, we've got one.
Right.
Don't worry, if you don't find it, we're going to help you find it.
Yep.
Because when you have a passion, that becomes an informed awareness, that becomes a focused awareness. Nothing's going to stop that from manifesting. And so that which no longer serves, even though we don't know it does not serve yet, will start falling away.
Starts falling away.
Yeah.
If you
So
don't
am
give
I
it away,
correct
it'll be
in my
taken
assumption
away.
here? Is this what we're talking about?
Exactly right.
All right. So what happened?
Well, it was just one thing after another, and these bizarre things that would happen in our law practice, that if you weren't paying attention, you might just say, oh, that's bad luck.
Right.
Because it was these crazy things that I really, didn't do anything, quote, wrong, right?
I understand, but it was the way that the universe set it up.
Right.
So this propelled you where?
It continued to put pressure on me.
Right.
To say, if you don't give this away, we're going to take it away.
There it is.
Right? It was Kali coming in.
It was
Shiva coming in. It's
that dance.
It's the dance.
Yep.
And
I feel the skulls on the skirt right now.
Oh,
all
yeah.
that ego.
And there was all these little death portals along the
Always.
way. Here's an opportunity to let go of that.
Right.
Like at one point, I had an ambition to be a politician. And then there was this process of letting go of that. When I realized I couldn't change the system would change me. Exactly,
and thank you for knowing that.
Yeah, and I could not hold my integrity in that or make a positive impact. So that was one thing, and realizing my partnership with my first partner was not forever. That was a big one coming to that, because I had this. I think every person who's highly dedicated to their self-realization has a certain commitment to their self-realization that transcends relationship.
This is true.
Right?
This is true.
And some may consider that to be selfish, but I consider that to be your primary obligation. It's your obligation to God.
And the obligation to that, all those around you will lift through it.
Yeah.
By holding that for yourself, even that partnership will rise into that.
Right.
And that's the gift, right?
Yeah.
Is carrying that mastery presence.
Yeah. There was opportunities along the way in that relationship where I could see that I can stay here and hold your hand and try to stand in place and slow down my own self-realization path.
Yeah.
Or I can let go of your hand, continue walking towards truth, and trust you will follow me or fall away.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Isn't that the old, if you love something enough, let it go?
Let it go.
If it comes back, it's yours. If it doesn't, it never was.
That's exactly right.
And that's really where it's at. Yeah.
And so
how did you wind up here?
I wound up here because after that life fell apart,
right.
And I ended up getting into working with sacred plant medicines as a part of my path and helping to embody that consciousness and change my
we're going to
life.
turn. So I want everybody to remember that we're going to be talking about sacred medicines exclusively in the second and next week's episode of this 2-part series. So you want to stay tuned for that. So go ahead.
So I'd started working with those, and I'd gone off on a journey of studying with the indigenous in South America.
Nice.
And I'd left my law practice behind in 2022, and then I went back to practicing law and back to a new partnership at a higher level of accord and vibration, and this one,
because you had shifted.
I had shifted.
So you were able to attract and be in that experience because you took that time out. You took that step and said, I'm going to do this.
Right.
I'm going to put this first.
Yeah.
And then you reinserted in that higher frequency.
A much higher frequency relationship, a true potential for the twin flame soul relationship. She's
Got it.
Truly the feminine aspect of my soul.
Beautiful.
And we came together in a home for a year. I went back to practicing law, defending service members and their families who had been injured by water contamination at Camp Lejeune. And then we just had a beautiful year of living in a home as a family. And one of the happiest years of my life.
I bet.
It truly was one of the happiest years of my life. And it was 90% perfect.
Got it. It's that 10%, right?
We were, as the relationship was coming apart, we were literally sitting doing a 1,000-piece puzzle of mushrooms. We had this long conversation. And as the relationship was coming apart, we were finishing the puzzle. There was one piece missing. We were 999 pieces of a 1,000-piece puzzle. And so that relationship ended up coming apart. As I was leaving the home, I literally was having dreams and getting messages that I should come here for New Year's. And I tried
here
to listen.
Being Tosa Blue Mountain.
Here in Tosa Blue Mountain.
In Ecuador,
And I tried to listen. And so that's how I ended up here. From October to November and December, I spent basically November, December, I spent 2 months in my friend's basement in a temple that I had constructed from
Wonderful.
my journey.
Your cave.
My cave.
A basement. I mean, you literally went into this cave temple.
The cave. After I left home, I went into like a 14-day involuntary fast of almost no water, no food.
Wonderful.
Just lots of energy running through my being and talking to the ascended realms. And all of this upgrading and shifting and downloading of new things into my energy field in that November, December portal, where I was like, the universe told me, you're on timeout right now.
Right.
You just need to go into the cave and receive and let go.
And so what gave you the impulse to trust that? If someone was to say, God, I'd love to do that, but I don't remember, what was it in you that said, I'm going to trust this, I'm going to do this? And because going into that cave brought out a greater part of you, brought out the inspiration, the visions, and the wisdom that said, come to Tosa Blue Mountain. And since coming to Tosa Blue Mountain, why do you think that all happened? Why do you think you were sent here?
I'm still figuring that part out.
Okay.
It's still unfolding, right?
The ever expanding conscious
It's
awareness.
still unfolding, and part of it is stabilizing
Okay.
this new frequency of consciousness that came in that November-December corridor.
That's true. And one of the things that I know you're conscious of is that it wasn't just you personally.
Right.
We were in the middle of a massive, that was October, November, December was Ave Sa.
Right.
It was literally a moment of preparation, expansion, and getting ready. And so you were able to dive into that in a way that many would love to. You were able to dive into that in a very deep, personal manner. You were able to experience it that way. And taking action on that is powerful.
Yeah.
And so how has this all melded you? What do you and I also want to caveat into talking about that. What I found interesting was that your arrival here for the New Year's experience that we were going through also wound up being part of the opening of the cacao here at Tosa Blue Mountain. You were able to go visit the Happy Fruit Farm and be with Tanya. You were here with Alexander Padilla of the Kanyari.
Yeah.
There's all of this profound opening happening for you and for all of us here of the sacred medicines. And I think about your journey with sacred medicine. And so how are you noticing this weaving? What are you noticing?
It's a lot of synergy, and I really believe Tosa Blue Mountain truly is one of these beautiful focal points of higher consciousness, right?
Yeah, thank you. I agree.
And it's a well-kept and beautiful secret that I hope more people are able to come in and experience.
And then keep it their own secret, but share it with everyone else who wants the secret. That's true.
It's because it's really a beautiful place to come and heal and to be around people who are in their heart, who've been on the path for a long time. And the energy of the pyramid creates this bubble of a multidimensional bubble that you sort of get to be in the mother's womb almost a little bit, the cosmic mother's womb.
How did you feel the first time you walked in the pyramid?
I felt the energy of peace.
Right? Oh, excuse me. And did you notice, for me, what I still to this day notice is that when I walk into the pyramid and I stand right in the center and I look straight up, I'm still blown away at that geometry and the presence and the energy field that's there.
I just feel that upward spiraling.
Yeah, right? Especially when you're standing right in the middle of the double pyramid. Yeah.
And one of the things that, and this is something we've talked about a little bit about this theme for this upcoming year of how so much of it is about the root chakra.
Yes.
Right? And we're continuing to try to figure out what that means, right? And well, what is the root chakra? It's security. It's fear.
Safety.
It's safety. It's physical survival.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, the basics.
It's the basics. It's the basics. And what is the antidote to that? In my experience, it has been a continuing deepening of the realization that I am deathless awareness.
There you go. I am as you are.
Identifying more and more with that part of myself that is indestructible.
Right.
Right?
And calling that into conscious awareness.
Awareness.
Really saying, okay, in this body of form, I am calling that into conscious awareness. Thereby, my eyes are open more, my brain expands more. You don't need a chip to be able to use more of that brain capacity. Consciousness expands.
Yeah. When you start becoming aware of all this multidimensional information that's outside of time and space, it's absolutely true. But you get all these puzzle pieces. You're like, how do I put this together into physical reality in this linear space?
Right.
And
so I'm going to interrupt you there
challenge.
because it is a challenge. And how do I put it together? And we're going to talk about your medicine. So I want to invite all of you to remember that we're going to be back next week. And if you're catching this after it aired live, you probably got part 2 waiting already, but we're going to dive into this a lot deeper and the power of sacred medicines when they're called forward from the gift of integrity. And I'm so grateful you're here, Adama. I really am. Thank you. Thank you for joining me on Expanding Consciousness. Learn more about the Yoga of Self-Ascension at shriandkira.com and make sure you're subscribed to YouTube official Shri and Kira. Remember, you are the gift. I love you and look forward to being with you again. Namaste.